Deep right field. Down the line it goes. Castellanos is out of room. It's out of runner goes. 3-2 pitch hit down the line. Is it fair? It is a fair ball. Into the corner. Off and running. Chu. Yu Chang around third. He's going to score easily. And into second. Hit hard. Hit deep. Up. And out. Goes Amed Rosario. And there's a fly ball. Left field. It's deep. It's up. It's gone to the porch. Deep left center field, it is gone to Souvenir City.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a very special edition of the Guardians of the CLE podcast. I'm your host, Max Goldstein, joined as always by my co-host, Mel Kirby. And today we have a very special guest joining us by the Cleveland Guardians in-game reporter, a Cleveland media legend, the one and only Andre Knott. Andre, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Max. You're good at saying Guardians. I'm still not exactly used to it myself. We just had a meeting today, a TV meeting today, and it was funny how many people that are all ingrained in putting TV together said Indians like 15 times in our meeting. So It's going to be a heck of a jump to get it for all of us to get used to saying it.
Yeah, we've been struggling with a bit of that on our own. So, I mean, we were going to ask you about it later on in the podcast, but you actually just brought it up. But Andre, Major League Baseball experienced their first operations lockout in nearly 30 years. Perhaps you could provide a perspective in how that affected the players, coaches, and front office members of the organization. And furthermore, what were the reactions once operations finally resumed?
That's a good question because there's so many realms to all of it that most people probably don't take in. And even myself, I think with the Guardians organization, there's so many young players that are involved. I'll put it this way. End of last season, Andrew Miller came in with the Cardinals. And we I want to say that was maybe September. I don't know, it all runs together. August, September. And I remember him being one of the big reps. And I remember him kind of saying, not expecting the best. I remember him and Brian Shaw had like lunch one morning, like before one of our games. And, Andrew telling Brian Shaw, tell your guys, save your money. There's a good chance we don't start the season on time. I think the older generation of players, and I think kind of like a lot like our lives, none of us are in the same, like we all have podcasts. Some are more, but I think everybody's in a different place. Just like the teams are the Yankees, Dodgers, anytime you talk baseball, money comes up, but like there's certain genres of money, and it's the same thing with an organization or players. The Guardians organization's got so many young kids, and I say this in the nicest way, they didn't really know what the hell was going on. It's just like, okay, we got to the big leagues. We're almost making $1 million. This is really cool. We'd like some things different. They don't know the struggles of what some of the guys before them have gone through. So I think it was just like, for me, it's a hard way to answer your question, Max, but I guess what I'm trying to say is a little bit like in our own world, there's like 4 different categories of people that were involved. And I think that's why it was so hard for it all to come together. Just like all the baseball teams don't like or can't stand the Oakland Athletics, the Tampa Bay Rays, the Cleveland Guardians. But every year they try to hire every person they can from those 3 teams. So a lot of the rules were like based around how do we stop these teams that are basically outsmarting all of us as we spend millions over top of millions, and they still can compete with us and beat us. Just like the same way you have the Lindor class and then you have the Ernie Clement class. They're in 2 different worlds, even Shane Bieber. So it was weird because I'm not saying that there were breaks in it, but if you look at the final votes, you could see the guys that were negotiating all felt a certain way. And when all the players got to speak, they didn't really agree with them. If that all makes sense in a convoluted way, I'm sorry.
No, definitely. So kind of branching off of that a little bit, as you know, there's some growing apathy, a lot of negativity amongst some of the right. We're combating it every single day, whether it's social media. Twitter's not a real place, but even real life. Just among the fans with the name change.
Oh, Mel. Let me really, before you go, you know what? Thank you for, I love Twitter, but I hate Twitter. I love life. And I yesterday, I just randomly tweeted out, I have all kinds of information about sports that it's become so emotional and so opinionated that I just don't even tell. Like, I'll have like things that are true facts, and I'm like, nah, I don't need the headache today. So like yesterday, I just tweeted out, no surprise, Shane Bieber's starting opening day. And like the 4 biggest jackasses that you can find, like, are like instantly like, oh, they could afford it. And I'm just like, can we take that to another space at another time? I have nothing to do with that. I'm sorry I cut you off, Mel, but you are absolutely correct. Fight the good fight. I'll say this, and then I'll let you say whatever you have to say, because I feel this way, and I'm saying things that I've planned on saying anyway. I have a friend that will remain nameless, but he's a good friend. He's done some really good work within the industry, and like in other industries. I don't want to give it away. And yesterday he kind of started texting me about Jose Ramirez and money and things of that nature. And I was like, dude, chill. I was like, you're from here. They're going to be fine. Kind of the statement I made to you guys. I was like, every team in baseball envies what this organization is. The only people that don't respect it is the people that live here. And I go, but the people with brains, you can see how an organization works. And I'm not saying that because of my job. I'm saying this to you two because I said this 15 years ago before I had this job, and people attacked me and called me, names and whatever else before Twitter was even Twitter. So I guess I would say, I don't love everything that they do. I wish they spent $150 million. I wish they spent $100 million, because they'd probably be pretty darn good. But they're pretty darn good the way they're doing it as well.
I like that you brought that up too, because, obviously they announced that Tom Hanks was throwing out the first pitch. Right. People can't even hear that news without being like, oh, well, they can do this and they can't extend Jose Ramirez. Like, I don't care who's throwing out.
The song comes out and they're like, why are they spending money on a song? Couldn't you get a left fielder? And it's like, you think that, like, it's like warped thinking.
Yeah, and it's like, you don't have to be negative all the time. It's okay to want to see your organization do great, be in the hot stove rumors. But the truth is, this team has been the most consistently competitive team in the city over the last decade. Eight of the last 9 years, they've had a winning record. Right. And still, I'm to the point where I'm not going to question what this front office does anymore. We know they're typically slow and methodical a little bit. They've had to adjust to a rushed off season. Of course, nobody cares about coming in second place to these certain guys, but they have a method to their madness. They trust some of these young kids. But you've been in Goodyear. What's kind of the vibe surrounding the team? I'm sure they're all excited to get back together and get back playing.
Yeah. Can I answer that twofold? You guys have me on. I'm long-winded at times. We always talk about the hot stove is like this great baseball term that we've had for so long in life. And, and it was great for baseball, say pre-Twitter, pre-cable television and everything else, when newspapers mattered. You got to see that is a big part of the game. Do not disagree. And the NFL has done this fantastic job of taking what the hot stove used to be and just like putting steroids on it. And it's just like, just thrown down your throat. And then when I start doing NBA games, NBA was like, well, we're really taking over free agency and making Twitter. My point is, like, we've made that, but it's really a media thing, a TV thing, to generate talk. And Phil Savage, when he was the general manager of the Cleveland Browns, once said this to me, and it rings true today. He always told me, he goes, Andre, the guy that wins the hot stove in the offseason, they never get the trophy. He goes, but it just sells newspapers and TV. No one's saying that. Do I wish the Guardians would have got a couple guys? Sure. But the one thing that I got from being in Arizona, when they didn't get old Matt Olson, when they didn't get Jesse Winkler, from the Reds, and they thought they had him until Seattle took Suarez's contract. Did my son just start playing? I thought my son was going to play music on me. But before they were in for deals for those guys. And once those deals didn't go through, I think from talking to Tito and being around other people, it was like, okay, we believe we have this really strong farm system. We believe we have guys that we hope are on the cusp of winning. Are being better players. Let's find out about them, and we still will have space to make moves. And I think for the young players, there's ignorance is bliss, right? Like, these guys have won on all levels. Like, a lot of these kids have won on all levels, and they feel like they can still win on all levels. And I think the pitching staff makes them feel that way. I thought Brian Shaw said it perfectly. He had chances to go other places, and he was like, no, after seeing what I saw last year, without injuries, we were a playoff team. I want to go back there because I think we can do that because I like the young talent we have. To me, that speaks more volumes than what, Steve, Peter, and Paul on Twitter tell me about money.
Yeah. So, I love all the points you're touching on, but you did mention something earlier on in the podcast about Jose Ramirez and everybody's trying to get the next bit. Obviously, we have to be one of those. So Jose Ramirez obviously being
the last time I talked about this, I had Jose's agent calling me and I'm trying to drive down the I-10.
Yeah, I saw that.
So, I mean, if you could provide any context into what's going on, he's obviously been a staple with the organization for years and a fan favorite to everyone. But what are you hearing surrounding his extension and the possible likelihood that it could get done before opening day?
I haven't heard anything in the last 24 hours or so from anyone that's involved. The thing that I said last week and the thing that I'll stand by this week, and we're at Friday, April 1st, not April Fool's Day, is from talking to both sides. Both sides seem to be at a point and a place that they want the same thing. Now, getting there and equaling that could be a difficult task because of his age, because of what like on one hand, he deserves whatever he asked for. And I told Jose's agent that last week when he called me freaking out. I love you, Rafa. I love you, Rafa. It's all good. But I think for the guard, Jose, I'll say this, Jose deserves every penny he can get. And I understand people that say that to see the games every single day. In a person that gets to see him and seeing him, 8 years ago till today, knowing the type of person he is off the field, knowing how hard he works, knowing how he shows up. The greatest attribute to a Major League Baseball player, and really to anyone in life, is being able to show up every day and be the same person. Like that's damn near impossible for any of us in anything that we do. And one of the most beautiful things about Jose Ramirez is no matter if he's 0 for his last 30 or if he's, 5 for 5 and had 3 walk-off hits in the last week, same dude every day. And don't get me wrong, there's roller coaster. Everybody has emotions, but he shows up. And I think that should count for something. And not only the production he puts up, he wants to be a Guardian. He wants to be one of the best players in Guardians history. I respect that. And I hope, and I know the organization appreciates it. So I hope, and I think, and I'm still positive, I think that they're going to find a way to do this because I know Jose wants it. I know Jose's agent wants it. And I know the organization wants it. Does that mean, a 4-year, 5-year, $200-some million contract so you come smoking out of the pipes at any point in second? I don't know, but if that happens, they've never given up that type of money. But I think if there's a person to do it with, not only what he does on the field, but who he is off the field, they may be willing to go a little bit further than they would in the past. We'll see.
Yeah,
that's as much as I can give you. I'm being positive on one side, I'll admit, because I really want it for him and for everyone else.
Sure.
But like I said, the main key is I think all involved want the same thing. In the past, and even currently, there are guys that want it, but they want last freaking dollar they can get. And God bless them. You can have that. You have that right. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And because we all go through that in our own lives. And I'm never going to judge someone for wanting the last penny. But also have great respect for someone that says I'm doing really, 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 really well. And I don't have to have the last dime. So we shall see.
Yeah, that would go a long way with fans to see that get done. But kind of transitioning into another fan favorite. You recently had an awesome interview with Josh Naylor earlier in the spring. Max and I are both huge supporters of Josh's. We were hoping you could give a quick update on his progress and just talk about what it means having a guy like him with his energy and his grit back around the guys and back in that lineup.
Great dude, just a great person, great human being. The hardest thing about my job, and I know you didn't ask, but I got to say it in talking about him, is that you can't become like, you have favorites because of who they are as people. And I think sometimes, and I'll admit, and I think Matt, Rick, and I, we all go through this. Some are better than others, but when you get to know people and you know who they are, you root for some more than you root for others. That's natural, right? Like you know someone and you know what's going on. I just think Josh Naylor, I felt bad for him last year just when he was struggling because it was like I wanted Cleveland to know him. Like I didn't want people just to know him because his hair flies all over the place, right? And because the ball went between his legs in Cincinnati and we didn't win a game. Because I get it. Like I was glad when he hit the home runs against the Yankees in the playoffs 2 years ago because it was like this dude there's something about him. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, going through the injury, he was just taken off before that. But I think going through the injury opened people's eyes. I think we all loved because he played so dang hard.
Yeah.
He's a first round pick. You know, I want to say top 10 pick by the Marlins. So I can talk about all this nice guy stuff. Dude is talented and he worked his tail off to get to this point. And let's be honest, number one, it'll be, and I don't know if he'll start opening day. I think he's pushing. He wanted to play first day of spring training. But baseball wise, if he can get to where he was kind of at when he got hurt and maybe get a little better, this team gets, I think, huge steps better. If you can say, okay, our first 4 batters are legit. If you can say our first 5 hitters are legit. Like if you can say Josh Naylor is going to be in the lineup 5 out of 7 days, he's going to bat 5th, 6th. He can protect Fran Mill in that area, kind of help Bobby Bradley. That's a huge increment for this team to be better. So great dude, great attitude. And he kind of mentioned to me that maybe this injury may help him a little bit because it gets him from going 115 miles an hour down to 90.
Right.
And that may really help him. Yes, that's a lot for him.
Yeah. So the battle of utility guys, there's been a lot of question marks surrounding what the starting lineup's going to be on opening day. But the battle for the utility spot might be one of the toughest decisions that the team has have to kind of come to. And with how well Yu Chang, Ernie Clement, Owen Miller, how well these guys are playing throughout the spring, out of those guys, which one could you see potentially, making the opening day roster?
If you don't think I'm just doing something random, I take notes as you talk, so I remember names and things to remember. I would say right now, it is a great competition. And you know what? Ernie Clement and his spring training, so it's April 1st. Big Ern, I love you. I do. Ernie's a good dude. Ernie's played so well in spring training that I love it because we instantly put him in the utility category.
Right.
And it makes sense because he is. But I remember, I shouldn't make I'm not making this comparison because I don't know what he is in the long run, but he's a big league ball player. Yu Chang is going to it sounds like Yu Chang is going to be your starting second baseman for the most part and play second base a lot. And then they'll give, Jimenez a little bit of run there. Jimenez will go back and forth between there and short. I would say, in my opinion, Ernie has definitely already won the spot, but Owen Miller crushes the ball. And to take an old Butch Davis comment that he used to make when I covered the Browns. He would go, "Oh, he's all Berea," meaning some guy that only kicked ass in training camp in Berea. Owen Miller is all Goodyear, Arizona. He hits 500 every year in spring training. Owen seems to be better. He worked with the new hitting coach in the offseason. But I would answer your question for right now from everything I've gathered and seen. I would say Ernie will probably win that position, and rightfully so. He's hitting damn near 500 last time I checked, and his glove has been awesome. And Yu Chang is going to get a chance to get some regular bats early. They're hoping the second half Yu Chang that they saw maybe works out here in the beginning of the year. And once again, like I said about Josh Naylor, if they can internally find a 5th, 6th hitter, it would make a huge difference in who they are as a team.
Yeah, that protection's big. And we kind of talked about all the young guys that were added to the roster before the lockout to protect them from the Rule 5 draft. And it's limited roster flexibility a little bit this spring. So with the injuries to James Karinchak and Cody Morris, what could you see him doing to kind of fill out that bullpen?
It's a good question because the bullpen will be different. The bullpen will be different April 7th, like May 7th, like May 1st. It'll be different, I'd say, midway through April, just because no one's going to be able to throw over 60, 75 pitches. So it'll be very different in how they go about it. I think you'll see a lot of piggybacking. You'll see other starters, probably the starters like Eli that we saw last year, Logan Allen. You'll see the older Logan Allen. You'll probably see make the roster. You'll see those guys all piggyback off of each other. You'll see Sam Hinges that try to go 2 innings at times. I'm forgetting the name right here, Stefan. You'll see him. They're going to use all those guys. Like I would say those 3-4 names I used. And because you play on Thursday, have Friday off, like you may have Bieber, Stefan, and how they're going to pair them off together. They may even make Tristan one of the guys that goes with Plesac. So it's hard to answer the question all the way because the Karinchak injury hurts. I'm not going to say it doesn't, but first and foremost, they're going to probably bring extra pitchers anyway to kind of take up length. And I think the real bullpen and its look will probably be seen more late April than it will be early April.
Well, thank you so much for that response. It definitely clears up some of the questions Mel and I had earlier on in the season. But
hopefully I'm right, but in like 2 weeks I'll be wrong.
Yeah. Well, Tito mentioned earlier in spring that Ahmed Rosario could see some time in left field this year. We are now starting to see him out there a little bit more, but what could his role look like heading into the season? Obviously, he's starting at shortstop, but could we see him sprinkled throughout the outfield for, majority of the season?
I don't know. Yeah, I think so. I think that's what's coming. I think he's going to come back today and play shortstop. Then he's going to go back out the left field or vice versa in the next 24, 48 hours, kind of as they continue along in spring training. I think that the writing to me is on the wall. Like I said, Andres Jimenez is going to play early. He's getting the first shot. Gabriel Arias is going to be on this team, and he's going to play significantly on this team in 2022. That's just my opinion.
He's got
it's hard for me to see it any other way. He is going to play. He was one of the best players on the team before they sent him down last week. I mean, he was hitting 571. He has, and we can get into why they're doing that and why they're not doing that. Yeah. Look, I'll be frank and I'll be honest. I screamed for Francisco Lindor for like a year before they would call him up. Yeah. And I know I pissed off Chris at times, probably. And I'll joke when I say that, but and Tito, I was like, why is he not here? And they gave all their reasons. They got to finish him off and all this other stuff. But it worked out. I think we're going to be saying, and I don't want to say he's going to be Frankie, but Gabriel's going to be pretty damn good. And I think Cleveland's going to fall in love with him. He's got a fun. He acts. He does. It's not act. He looks like he belongs. I had someone from the Padres tell me when he first got traded over here that there were, and I've told this story again, and I'll keep telling it because you recognize it when you see him. But when Hosmer first got over to the Padres, they were in spring training and they were in the BP session. And it was Tatis, Hosmer was in that, and then their third baseman, and there was somebody else. And Arias was in the group. And Hosmer was just like, I figured he was another one of our big leaguers because there was no difference in watching him and Tatis basically go to their BP.
Wow.
He's going to be fun to watch. He's young. He's only 21, but I think the guys that are here know they better play well early because if they don't, he's coming to take somebody's job. And that would lead to, I'm sorry. And that leads to Rosario playing left field probably.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought him up because he's just one of those many middle infielders on this 40-man roster that they're eventually going to have to start giving that playing time to see what they have. But another young guy who's made that name for himself this spring is Stephen Kwan. I mean, what stood out to you the most about his game and just him in general? I mean, he has like a 9% career strikeout rate, which is just incredible.
Yeah, you took it from me, Mel. He doesn't strike out. And in this age of, if strikeouts not mattering, and he fits kind of, it's a little bit like, I got to think of his name because trades all run there. It was a guy that, and they went to Oregon State together and won a national championship together. Not Danny Mendick, but we called him two strike, whatever. He was with the Cubs he was with the White Sox.
Madrigal?
Traded to the Cubs. What's that?
Madrigal?
Yes.
Nick Madrigal?
Nicky Two Strikes. They were teammates in college and they played at Oregon State. They don't strike out, but he's learning because he does make great contact. He's gaining power, can play all three outfield positions. That may be, and I don't want to talk out of my, what. That might be the surprise of the roster is him making a team and maybe somebody that we know well not. But I won't say any names because not my place. But I wouldn't be shocked next week if that happened.
I would not be mad.
Awesome.
I don't think I'm gonna stop talking. I just won't be surprised if that happens.
So obviously, the Major League Baseball lockout, it took a toll on players, fans alike. But before the lockout began, we heard rumblings about David Blitzer coming on as minority owner. Things have been kind of silent on that front post-lockout. Could that may have impacted the team of not taking many financial risks in this rushed off season?
It's a great question. And I'll be honest, I don't have the answer, Max, but I think that is I'll do this because more journalists should do this. I guess I'm a journalist. You have a great question and I don't have the answer. So the next time I have the opportunity to speak to someone that does have the answer, I will ask that question. Is that fair?
That's very fair, yeah.
Because I think that's a fair. I don't. My opinion would say, if it's as close as we were led to believe that it is, that it wouldn't slow them down for what they did. But that's my opinion, and I want to know the answer before I say something I shouldn't. Talking to Tito and talking to Mike and Chris, they haven't made it out like they've been restrained to do anything. You know what I mean? Like, I haven't kind of heard, like in the years past, like last year, they were pretty open with, we lost so much money in 2020. We have to kind of reset ourselves. Like that was an honest conversation where it was like, that wasn't one of those off the record things. It wasn't one of those hide things. It was like, this is our situation. And I felt like, I don't say this because people get pissed when I say this. Well, they get pissed because like all of us, the one thing I've always learned about covering sports is that even though you see these guys on TV every single day and they play a game that we've all played or all wish that we could play at a high level, like you have to remember they're all human beings, right? Like they're people. And I think it's hard sometimes when people watch the games to realize, like when we were talking about Twitter and just like the ridiculousness that people will say to sports, like daily. Like I'm always like, man, I don't come to your job and tell you and yell and scream at you when you don't put enough salt on the fries. Why are you yelling at a guy because he couldn't hit a slider at 90 miles an hour? Like, what is wrong with you? Going through all of that, I just think that they want to go find out, and I'm losing track of where I want to go with this, but I will admit, like, they are going to spend money. And like what I was told was that we got these young guys, we're going to play them and we're going to find out about them. And if not, then we'll go spend the money how we have to spend money.
Like to hear that. So as we kind of wind down here, what would be considered a successful season for you? Like, what are you looking to see from the team this season, Andre?
A successful season, trying to see if this rotation can be, I mean, think about it. We've talked for like 30 minutes and this isn't a bad thing. We've talked for 30 minutes and we haven't talked about one of the top 5 rotations in baseball, top 10. We'll see. As Kyle Quantrill said to me, we can all talk, but they've got to do it. They have the potential to have a really good starting rotation. They have the potential to have one of the best closers in baseball. So that's obviously important because that means you can be in every game. And I think that's how this organization has been built. So to me, and like I said, 8 of the 9 last seasons, they've been over 500. Last season, they weren't. And I mean, think about it. They lost 3/5, 4/5 of their starting rotation. So that, and the excitement of who's next. Yeah. I know that doesn't sell tickets. I know that doesn't, and I'll be honest, as someone that's got to do 158 games over the next 6 months, I have to look for storylines. And the storyline is who's next. Who is the next young kid that we've all read about or heard about, who becomes a legitimate player? Can Franmil Reyes hit 40 home runs? Can Jose finally win an MVP? But I want to see Tristan McKenzie become who I think he can. I want to see Aaron Savali become an all-star. That's what, to me, I think they're going to be. I said this to a friend the other day, and I feel this way, and I'll stay this way wholeheartedly until they prove me differently. They'll be right around a little over 500 for the first 4 months of the season, 4 or 5 months. Then then hopefully they'll make a move and get hot in the second half, like most Tito teams do. And we'll be in a playoff race. And really, growing up in the 90s, in the 80s and 90s, like I did in Northeast Ohio, that's a win in itself. Yeah. Because a lot of times I went to the ballpark, and when my dad took me to the ballpark on July 4th, we were out of it. So to me, that's a big jump, and that's kind of what I hope for every year, and I think it could happen again this year.
Awesome. So, I mean, to sort of wrap up on a lighthearted note, got a couple questions here. But who would be the biggest prankster / jokester on the team this season?
Probably Naylor or Fran Mill. They've got this great like chemistry of just because they were in minors together at San Diego. So I would go with those two most likely. Nobody beat Carlos Carrasco, but that would be
It was great.
Yeah. Oh, that was some fun times. But I did have another question, thought about it a couple of minutes before the podcast. But who do you predict will be the first Gatorade bath you share this week?
Fran Mill. Well, Fran Milton. No. We got all these young dudes. Oh, Bobby Bradley will get me. Bobby Bradley.
Okay.
I'm gonna mess Bobby. I'm gonna rip his shirt the rest of the way off too.
Well, Andre, we wanted to thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us here today. Your insight's always very much appreciated, and we're wishing you nothing but the best this upcoming season. Obviously, your interviews are always so fun and natural to watch. So we hope to have you again on sometime, maybe in the future, should your schedule allow it. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us here today.
You got it, man. Thank you
Thank
guys.
you very
Appreciate
much.
you guys for reaching out. No problem. You guys have fun. Thanks for letting me do this. And if anybody's pissed off at you, just tell them to send it to my Twitter account. I probably got it muted already.
They'll be coming.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So for everyone, that'll just wrap up this week's special episode with the Guardians in-game reporter, Andre Knott. Thank you, everyone, for listening and tuning in. Make sure you rate, review, and subscribe on YouTube and all major podcast platforms. Follow Guardians of the CLE and Believeland Media as well. And we will see you back here on Monday. But until then, everybody stay safe, healthy, and have a great weekend.